are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, April 10th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link, that is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to talk about CeeDee Lamb, some stuff in the news recently with him regarding his contract situation, the possibility of him holding out. So he does address the holdout rumors. So we'll get into that in a second. Then we'll talk about the AFC East. We'll talk about what tackle of the Miami Dolphins, Terrance Armstead, had to say regarding the competition in the AFC East. Then we'll talk about the Stephon Diggs trade and how the Kansas City Chiefs were the one team that was just banned from the trade discussions with Diggs. So we'll get into all that as well. And then the final part of the show, we'll talk about the Vikings as they gear up for the NFL draft and what they will potentially do with their first pick, which I think we all can assume it's going to be quarterback. But I'll get into all that at the end of the show. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about CeeDee Lamb and him addressing the holdout rumors. So it was reported that he could possibly hold out, looking for a new contract, of course. But he did actually address the holdout rumors in a conversation with TMZ. He described his off-season routine as relaxing, chilling, and working out. He's entering the fifth year of his rookie contract, set to earn about $18 million in 2024. But, of course, he is looking for a massive contract extension. So it's going to be the start of voluntary off-season workouts for the Cowboys on April 15th. And it seems like Lamb is not going to be attending that. So that's also where the holdout rumors have come up. Now, I wanted to get into what exactly he had to say. Well, yeah, so one of the quotes was relaxing, chilling, working out, of course, about his off-season. And I think, so here's another quote from him. Winning, I'm looking forward to winning and being out there with my guys and making another run at this thing. Yeah, I'll be in Dallas. So it seems like, at least with the conversation with TMZ, that he has full confidence that, well, I shouldn't say full confidence, but he has some sort of confidence that him and the Cowboys will reach a new deal and this won't be a problem. But if he wants to get that before the 2024 season, does the holdout still come into play? Now, he says he has confidence that the deal is going to get done, some confidence that the deal is going to get done, but what is that timeline? And does he want to play under a new contract in 2024? And, we talked about this in our production meeting yesterday, how the Cowboys, maybe they take a little too long to pay their guys, because if they could have paid CeeDee Lamb before 2023, I know we were discussing that could have been better, because now he's coming off of this great season, and now the Cowboys are going to have to pay him an increased price. So, but Yeah, I mean, we talked about Micah Parsons. We've talked about Dak, CeeDee Lamb. These guys are going to want to get paid. And for me, as I think about it, you can't keep everybody. Now, they might end up keeping everybody, but the problem is then the supporting cast around them might be a problem in future years. But I feel like the odd man out here, the way things are going at the moment, might be Dak Prescott. Because Dak Prescott is going to get paid the most out of the three when you're talking about him, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons. And I just feel like we're kind of entering that territory where Dak is kind of like Kirk Cousins with Washington. Now, Dak has gotten paid before. Washington was like, we'll franchise tag you. We're not really sure. And eventually, Kirk Cousins left. He went to the Vikings. And then the Vikings kind of did the same thing. But that's because Kirk Cousins was coming off of a significant injury. If Kirk Cousins doesn't get hurt, I think he probably stays in Minnesota. But that was not the case. So I feel like we kind of we're entering that territory where the Cowboys, now Dak supposedly wants $60 million a year, which is outrageous. And maybe they just might say, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction. Now, again, I've brought this up. What's the alternative then if you let Dak Prescott go? We'd have to see. But I think you end up keeping CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons, and I think Dak ends up being the odd man out. I honestly believe that. But we also talked about in the production meeting, too, Jerry Jones loves his guys, and a lot of people know this. So he's going to do everything he can to keep them all happy. But might have to let somebody go. Because I think, I could be wrong, but back when, back in 2014 when you had DeMarco Murray and he led the league in rushing, I believe, wasn't Des Bryant also looking for a new contract too? I could be wrong. And they had to let go of DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray ended up leaving. And then you had, I believe it was Joseph Randle. He was the starting running back to start the 2015 season. And then you also had Lance Dunbar there. Actually, no, didn't they have... they had Darren McFadden. He was also there too. And he ended up having over 1,000 yards rushing for the Cowboys. I think that was 2015. But for whatever reason, the Cowboys, they didn't bring back DeMarco Murray. So sometimes they can't keep everybody. But and again, DeMarco Murray was coming off of a great season. And they let him go. And now, because I don't know if there was another player that was looking to get paid. I feel like it was Des Bryant, but I could be wrong. I could be making stuff up here, but because this is 10 years ago. I'd have to go back and look. But they let go of DeMarco Murray. Now, again, that's a running back position. That's a little different. But now you got your 3-star players that are going to be looking for new contracts. I think one of them is going to be the odd man out, and I think it's going to be Dak. The way things are going, it looks like it could be Dak, because Dak is going to be playing under the final year of his contract, of his current deal. Final year of his current deal. They're not going to. I don't think they're going to franchise tag him. So he's going to hit free agency. And then what's going to happen? And there's going to be a team that needs a quarterback. So the Cowboys aren't the team that's going to pay him. It's going to be somebody else. And I think the Cowboys, I know they've had a very lackluster offseason, but they still have a roster that can compete. And we'll talk about the Vikings a little bit later. They have a roster that can compete. Right now, they need a quarterback. Now, I like the Vikings and their playmakers on offense collectively over the Cowboys. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. But, Brandon Cooks is getting older. They let go of Michael Gallup. Right now, they need to figure out the running back position. I like the Vikings collectively better than the Cowboys. Also, Jake Ferguson is a nice player, but, I'd take Hawkinson. Right now, you take Jordan Addison over Brandon Cooks. and you would take Justin Jefferson over CeeDee Lamb, although it's very close. And right now, the Cowboys, they got to figure it out with the running back position. You take Aaron Jones right now, a guy that torches the Cowboys every time he plays them. Just had to throw that in there. But you get what I'm saying. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, you'd probably say Micah Parsons is the best player amongst the players on the Vikings. But, again, collectively, I like the Vikings roster better. So, yeah, I mean, if the Cowboys, they let Dak walk, what's the alternative? They do have Trey Lance there still. So does he get an opportunity to take over? Again, this is down the line. This is after the 2024 season. But, like I said, what's the alternative? I mean, Cooper Rush is not going to be the long-term starter. I think he's still on the team. I mean, Trey Lance is not going to command $60 million a year at the moment. Maybe you give him the opportunity. Cowboys did trade for him. So he might get a shot if things with Dak Prescott fall through. But you got to make sure that they keep CeeDee Lamb happy, because you don't want to have him holding out. And we got to see what the Cowboys do in the draft. You figure they're going to address the running back position. Maybe they draft another receiver. They go after guys on defense, maybe. Because right now, the way the Cowboys are at the moment, again, I still view them as a playoff team. You're going to compete with the Eagles. But you got to add something to this roster. I mean, you went out, you re-signed your long snapper, and you signed Eric Kendricks. That's all they did. But it's because of Jerry Jones saying we're all in. That's why a lot of people are disappointed. But you also lost some guys. Not only did you not bring guys in, you lost guys. You lost guys to Washington. You lost Tony Pollard. Leighton Vander Esch, unfortunately, retired due to injuries. Stephon Gilmore. Actually, wait. Hold on. He was on the team in 2022. Was he also? Yeah, no. I think he was on the team in 2023, right? I believe so. I just want to double check just to make sure, because I could be wrong. No, I think he was with the Cowboys the last two. Oh, wait. Yeah. Oh, no, he was on the Colts in 2022. My mistake. He was on Dallas in 2023. Okay. Because I was thinking back to that Sunday night that the Colts and the Cowboys played in 2022. He was on the Colts. And then he was on the Cowboys this past season. Okay. All right, so I was right. And then he was also with the Panthers in 2021. But yeah. They lost guys, and they didn't really bring anybody in. So yeah, we'll see what they end up doing in the draft. But with CeeDee Lamb, he wants to stay in Dallas, and I think one way or another the Cowboys are going to get him a new contract. For me right now, I feel like Dak might be the odd man out, and they might go in a different direction. And it's not like Dak Prescott, when they drafted him, he was a top pick. He was in the later rounds. I think he was, what was he, a 4th-round pick? So, the Cowboys, whether you like them or not, they do a good job at drafting players. But everything after that, especially with their playoff success or lack thereof, that's where the criticism comes in. Because people don't really question their talent. It's just, the coaching and other things. So, but I think CeeDee Lamb, they'll get a new deal done. I have more confidence in that than I do with Dak Prescott, because of just the difference in money. Because, again, Dak Prescott is going to be commanding a bigger contract than CeeDee Lamb. Because, again, but that's the difference in positions. So we'll keep an eye on it. We definitely will keep an eye on it throughout the offseason. Again, there's a lot of receivers that are going to be looking for new deals. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. I know we talked about Brandon Ayuk and trade speculation around him, and T. Higgins requesting a trade. It's just there's a lot of receivers that are looking to get paid, and some of them will get moved. Like T. Higgins most likely is going to get moved right now. Brandon Ayuk, I'm not ready to say that yet, but right now it's not looking good on the surface. Justin Jefferson, I mean, I have a hard time believing the Vikings are going to let him go. But then again, last week we talked about Tom Brady saying, oh, Devontae Adams left Rodgers and Tyreek Hill left Mahomes, and now Stephon Diggs left Josh Allen. Big wide receivers, star wide receivers, ended up moving. So Justin Jefferson could be the latest, but I don't think so. Jamar Chase, I think the Bengals are going to get a deal done with him. You know, they let go of Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins could be traded. You got to keep somebody. Jamar Chase is going to get paid by the Bengals. So, and I think CeeDee Lamb's going to get paid by the Cowboys. It's just when it comes to now CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, and Dak could be the odd man out. But who knows? They could pay him tomorrow, and then I come on and say I was wrong. So, all right, so with that, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about something Terrance Armstead had to say, the left tackle for the Miami Dolphins. We'll talk about how the AFC East offseason went, and that is what we will discuss when we come back from our first break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the AFC East. Some things that Terrance Armstead had to say, the offensive tackle for the Miami Dolphins. Talked about some things regarding the AFC East. So he joined NFL Network's Total Access on Monday and said the focus in Miami is all about what the Dolphins can do in their own locker room, not worrying about what other clubs added or lost. So this is what he said. It's all in-house. It's all in-house. We don't really look at all the other moving pieces within the division or around the league because we feel like we have enough. We're talented enough, we're skilled enough, we're tough enough. We just have to do. It's now time to show improvements, to show we can win those big games and live those big moments. So it doesn't matter who's traded. We don't look at that. We have enough to beat anybody at full strength, and that's our mindset. It's our mentality. We have that confidence, but we have to just go out and do it. And the Dolphins, they did lose some pieces in the offseason because of cap space. Obviously, their season didn't end the way they wanted it to, losing to Kansas City in that just cold weather. And that's putting it lightly. But, you know, in the article that I have here, it talks about the star power that they still possess with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, Jalen Rand, a lot of Jalens. Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Phillips, and Jalen Waddle. Bradley Chubb, sorry. And, yeah, you got Tua Tagovailoa, but I know he's a controversial figure in Miami just, because you got fans that like him, you got fans that don't like him, fans that say he's overrated, not very good, all that. I know I work with someone that's a Dolphins fan, and he just does not want them to pay Tua, but he knows it's inevitable. So yeah, there's kind of some conflicting things. You got people on one side of the aisle that think Tua is a solid quarterback, and then you got people on the other side that think he's not good and the Dolphins should go in a different direction. I think Tua does put up solid numbers, but you also got to look at who he's throwing to. And you've seen games where, especially when Tyreek Hill got hurt against the Titans, Tua did not look good after that. So that's going to be a big decision on the Dolphins. But back to what Armstead had to say, yeah, the Dolphins have a ton of talent. There's no question about it. They do. And they got off to a roaring start. And people were looking at them as like, oh, they could be the next greatest show on turf. Put up 70 points against the Broncos. And I was like, wow, yeah, this team looks really good. But then they got a reality check in Buffalo. And, you played the Chiefs in the regular season. They were losing 21-0. They did make it close. It was 21-14. That was a game in Germany, but still. The Chiefs were winning that game. Also, they played the Ravens, and the Ravens won by a few scores. And then they lost to Buffalo. And if they would have won that in the final week of the regular season, if they would have won that, they would have been the number 2 seed, I believe. So, yeah, it just and then, of course, they lost to the Chiefs in Arrowhead in that weather. So the season kind of ended with a thud. And I think 2024 is a big year for them because they got some doubters. The quarterback has doubters, especially. They got, and I believe Armstead, they got the firepower for it. They have the talent to compete with anybody. But do they have the quarterback? And again, like I said, I think Tua does put up good numbers, but is Tua the answer there? Right now, I'd probably lean towards no. But he's got to go out there and prove it. And thankfully, last year, he was relatively healthy. The previous season, we thought his career could be in jeopardy with all the concussions and just how things were handled with his situation. But he was relatively healthy, thankfully. But now we go into 2024, and it's a big year for him. I think it's also a big year for Mike McDaniel, too. Because the first year, you made the playoffs. You went against Buffalo, and they almost beat Buffalo with Skylar Thompson as their quarterback. Now, Josh Allen turned the ball over, which helped. The final score of that game, I think, was 34-31. They had a chance to win that game despite Tua being out. And then in 2023, you play the Chiefs. Well, technically you played them in 2024, but you get what I'm saying. They play the Chiefs, and it's just, other than that touchdown to Tyreek Hill, the Dolphins really never had a chance in that game. In Arrowhead against the Chiefs, going from, warm weather to that, just, it wasn't going to happen. And the Dolphins were missing some guys in that game. I think on the defensive side of the ball, they were missing starters. So, yeah, it just, the odds were stacked against them. But now, this is a big year for them because I think with the Bills a little bit weaker, and there's still question marks with the Jets, this really is a golden opportunity for the Dolphins to take this division by the horns and win it and host a playoff game. Now, again, injuries can happen. Understand that. But I think the division's wide open. Now, we'll see. Again, we still got the draft. So the Bills, they're going to address the wide receiver position in the draft. And I don't think the Bills are going to be this awful team now with them trading Stephon Diggs. I think they're still going to be competitive, but I do think it kind of knocks them down a little peg. Knocks them down a peg. Little peg. A peg. And the Jets got better. Whether you want to say they did or not, I like the moves that they've made. I've talked about the Jets a lot the last couple of weeks. And like I said, I'm going to be in the minority and say they're going to go out and have a good season. The thing is, I don't want to look at the Bills and say I look at them as a third-place team in the division because things change. But right now, out of the top three, I like the Jets the best at the moment. And it's a risk because the players that they've added have dealt with injuries. But if it pans out, I think the Jets are the best team in the division. The Dolphins, I think offensively, on paper, they have the best offense. But I think the Jets overall, with their defense, I think you look at them as the best team. That's just me. The Patriots, they're in a rebuild. And we'll see what they end up doing with the quarterback position. Right now they have Jacoby Brissett, and again, I talked about them this week, but supposedly they might opt to not taking a quarterback, which I think wouldn't make sense because I don't think Jacoby Brissett is the long-term answer, unless maybe they think it. But I think they just signed him to a one-year deal. So, but we'll see. I think they will draft a quarterback, but could be wrong. There's other positions they could address, wide receiver, same as the Giants. Don't want to bring the Giants into it, but I did anyways. But yeah, the AFC East, it was a wild offseason because you had the Bills and the Dolphins releasing a lot of guys. Stephon Diggs recently got traded. The Jets, they made some moves. They, traded for an offensive lineman. Well, they brought in 3. They traded for 1. They signed a couple. They signed Mike Williams. They traded for Hassan Reddick. I mean, there was a lot of moves that were made this offseason within this division. The Dolphins, they got Jordan Poyer from the Bills because the Bills released him. They also signed Shaq Barrett. They lost Christian Wilkins. They had to release him, and he went to the Raiders. And now apparently the Dolphins are looking to get Odell Beckham Jr. and be their number 3 wide receiver. They really want to make it happen, at least that from the headlines that I'm seeing. So, yeah, and then they also they signed Jonnu Smith as well, a tight end who can make plays for them. Yeah, we'll see. But Armstead's correct, though, when he says that they got the guys to compete with anybody. They do. They definitely do. But I think, the one thing that holds them back is their quarterback, unfortunately. Because we saw how Tua played against teams that were over 500. The Dolphins just couldn't beat them. Well, they did beat the Cowboys. But the Cowboys had their own issues. They couldn't, beat teams on the road, right? That was the issue with them last year. Or at least teams on the road with a winning record. The Dolphins just couldn't beat anyone with a winning record, but they beat the Cowboys. They lost to the Chiefs twice. They lost to the Bills twice. They lost to the Eagles. A lot of games they lost against better teams. And that was a knock. I mean, you beat the Broncos, you dropped 70 points on them, but the Broncos at that point were not a very good team, and they still ended up finishing. I mean, yeah, in the middle of the season they were playing better, but again, the Dolphins are better than the Broncos. But I just didn't think they were that much better where they were going to drop 70 points on them. I still can't believe that happened. But you know what? At least for the Broncos, it happened in a 1 o'clock game. It wasn't a nationally televised game. Because if you go back to, I think it was 2011 when the Saints, they won like 62-7 over the Colts when Peyton Manning was out with the neck injury. And you had Curtis Painter starting. That was on Sunday Night Football for everyone to see. Now again, we have technology So, I mean, and it's not like we didn't have technology back then, but we have technology where, yeah, you could still watch the game even if you don't get it in your area. But again, that was a 1:00 game. Saints Colts at that time was on Sunday Night Football, and the Saints won 62-7. So, yeah, that wasn't fun. That was not fun for the Broncos. But yeah, I mean, with this division though, right now, like I said, I'm in the minority. Like the Jets the best. And the Dolphins, yeah, I'd probably put them second at the moment, but I just don't like putting Buffalo third. I don't want to write off Buffalo because they still got Josh Allen, and I still feel like they're gonna figure it out. Now, that doesn't mean that I think the Bills are just going to go to the Super Bowl and win it this time without Diggs. But I don't think the Bills are just going to be this bad team now all of a sudden. Because, again, you look at I've talked about this. You look at some of the games that Diggs had, and he really wasn't a factor, and the Bills won despite that. So, we'll just have to wait and see. So, before we go into our next break, just want to remind you guys again to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back, we will talk about Stefon Diggs again, about how the Chiefs were the one team that the Bills were not dealing him to. So we'll get into that when we come back from our second break of the show. So with that being said, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about Stefon Diggs more and how the Chiefs are kind of that one team that was banned from getting Diggs, which, again, not really a surprise just because, this is kind of one of those rivalries in the NFL between the Bills and the Chiefs, how the Chiefs have been that team that eliminates the Bills from the playoffs. The Bills did not want to deal him. Now, there is a possibility that Diggs could still end up on the Chiefs, and we'll get into that in a second. But basically, so Chris Sims, he talked about it on PFT Live, and this is what he said. From what I do know, he was allowed to seek a trade from anybody in the league except the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what I've been told by multiple people. He was allowed to do that. The Chiefs are the only team that weren't going to trade to. And yeah, I mean, it's simple enough there. Because again, what I just said, this has become a rivalry, somewhat. These teams have clashed a lot over the last several years in the playoffs and the regular season. Now, the Bills have kind of owned the Chiefs in the regular season, and the Chiefs have owned the Bills in the postseason. He wasn't going to get traded to the Chiefs. Now, the one thing that I thought was funny, so I was listening to WFAN here in New York, and Boomer Esiason did a Sports Minute, and he talked about the Chiefs being the team that was banned from the list of teams that Diggs could be traded to, so basically the only team that was banned. And he said, well, you essentially traded him to the Texans, who could become that team that is a thorn in your side, just like the Chiefs are. Which is true, because look at what the Texans are building over there. You pair Diggs up with Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Tank Dell, before he got hurt, was having a good season. Nico Collins had a breakout season. C.J. Stroud, great first season. And he's only going to get better. Because now you bring in Stephon Diggs. And maybe I'm a little bit higher on Diggs as opposed to other people. I feel like Diggs still has good football left in him. I don't think he's completely fallen off. Now, again, there's some things that you've seen, in the playoffs and at certain points last year where signs could be pointing to a decline for Diggs. But he got off to such a great start. So I think, with the offense changing in Buffalo, I think that had something to do with it. I think Diggs still is going to be a good wide receiver, and this was a great move for the Texans getting him. But I thought what Boomer Esiason said was funny is, you didn't trade him to the Chiefs, but you traded him to a team that you're going to be competing with to get to a Super Bowl, to go further in the playoffs, and that's the Houston Texans. So if the Bills match up against them in the playoffs, I mean, honestly, you can't even say depending on where it is. Because the Bills, last 2 home playoff games, they lost. Now, we'll see how C.J. Stroud is in year 2 on the road, because I think the Texans, they were a different team at home as opposed to on the road. Now, again, they went to play the number 1 seeded Ravens in the playoffs, and that was going to be that was a tall task. And, the season ended there, didn't really play well, but, you saw what they did against the Browns in Houston. They torched them. Also helped by 2 Joe Flacco pick sixes, but still. The Texans also lost to, now again, next year's a different year, but Texans also lost to the Panthers on the road too. So they were a different team on the road as opposed to at home. But still, the Bills got to play the Texans in the playoffs. That's going to be a tough matchup. So, you didn't trade him to the Chiefs, but you traded him to the Texans, who are an up-and-coming team, and they are going to be a very good team in 2024. Right now, I look at them as the favorites in the division. We know this. And again, we talked about this in the production meeting. Could you make the case they're the best team in the AFC? You definitely can, but I'm not going to. I am not going to, because of the team that's a part of this show segment here. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. Can't do it. Until somebody dethrones them, which they have gotten dethroned by the Bengals, by the Patriots, even though the Patriots still kind of ran the AFC with Tom Brady. The Patriots, Brady kind of passed the torch to Mahomes and said, the AFC is now yours. I'm going to go play in Tampa for a few years and win another Super Bowl. But the AFC is now yours. And ever since the Patriots dynasty ended, it's now the Chiefs dynasty. Now again, have the Chiefs always won? No. But they pretty much have gone to the Super Bowl every single year. Or they've gone to the AFC Championship game every single year. Mahomes has been a part of the, since Mahomes became the starter. But they lost to the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. They lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. And it took overtime. Both times. So, I still look at the Chiefs as the best team in the AFC. And coming off of back-to-back Super Bowls, and especially the one in 2023 where you had all these struggles on offense, and it didn't matter. So, yes, I'm still putting the Kansas City Chiefs as the team to beat. The Texans, they have done a great job this offseason. Again, I look at them as right now, I would say that they're a top 3 team. I think I'd probably still put the Ravens ahead of them. Again, I like them ahead of everybody in their division. Well, actually, but then there's the Bengals. I got to knock them down a little bit. So top 4 team. I think right now I like them better than the Bills. I like them better than the Dolphins. I do. So I would probably put them top four. Top four. I still like the Bengals with the healthy Joe Burrow. But listen, C.J. Stroud went into Cincinnati and beat Burrow. Burrow was a little banged up. Well, towards the end of the game, I think that's when he hit his hand on a player, and that's what led to the wrist injury. But a healthy Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and then, of course, Patrick Mahomes, I'm putting them ahead of the Texans at the moment. But we still got the draft. So they're going to load up on the draft. And I mean, again, I am really excited to see what the Texans are able to do in 2024. But now with Stephon Diggs, so they reworked his contract, so he's going to become a free agent after the 2024 season. So I know I mentioned that on one of the previous shows this week, but he's going to be a free agent after this year. And it's possible that maybe he does end up with the Chiefs anyways, and he just signs with them after this year. It's possible. Now, again, is it going to happen? I don't know. But, you know, the Bills banned the Chiefs from getting an opportunity to maybe trade for him. But the Chiefs could still end up with him anyways. And now if he does that, if he went to the Chiefs, you would probably sit back and say, that might have been something to just throw a jab at the Bills. Kind of stick it to them because, you know, just to how things were going the last couple of seasons. But again, only time will tell. Right now, you know, he met with C.J. Stroud. They were working out together. You know, him and the other receivers, I believe, they got together. So already trying to build a rapport with his new teammates, and we'll see what they could do. But I just thought it was kind of interesting. Well, not really interesting, but funny how, the Chiefs were banned. There was no way that they were getting Stephon Diggs if they ended up trading him. And they did, but they traded him to the Texans, who could become a problem now for the Bills and make the path even harder to get to a championship game and try to get to a Super Bowl. So, again, got the whole draft. The Bills, they're going to add a receiver one way or another. They did add Curtis Samuel this offseason, but they're going to want to add some more receivers. And the draft is probably, well, at this point, it's the best way to go, unless they go after one of the receivers that's still available. So, we'll just have to wait and see. But, so actually, quick news. Actually, oh, wait. Breaking news. So, I mean, this was about like an hour ago. So, we actually do have an opponent for the Eagles in Week 1 in Brazil that Friday. And it will be, now I know I talked about the two teams. They did pick a team. It will be the Green Bay Packers. They will be playing the Philadelphia Eagles in Brazil Week 1 of the NFL season that Friday. So, get ready. I'm excited for that. Should be a good game. Packers, solid off, but both teams had good off seasons, I think. Still got the draft, like I keep saying, but you know what the Packers have done, signing Xavier McKinney, bringing in Josh Jacobs, the Eagles, the moves they made on defense, bringing in Saquon Barkley, Jordan Love had a great end to his season. Jalen Hurts looking for a bounce back, should be good. I'm looking forward to that, and the game will be on Peacock. So make sure to have a a friend, a family member, an acquaintance lend you their Peacock account in case you don't have it and don't feel like paying for it. Make sure that you have it for this game because that will be the second game of the season. Packers-Eagles. So looking forward to that. Like I said, it should be a good game. And Friday Night Football. You got that, and then of course The night before that, you're going to have the Chiefs playing, we'll see. Maybe they play the Texans. Maybe they play the Bills. Maybe they play, well, actually, I don't know what, I think the Texans I think are an away team, so they could pick them. But we'll see. So, yeah, just wanted to bring that up. Got to use the breaking news feature once again, even though, again, this was like over an hour ago. I saw it on the NFL's Instagram. They posted it. So I did want to bring that up. But, yeah, so Packers-Eagles, get ready for that. That will be week 1 on Peacock. So we're going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we're going to discuss a rival of the Packers, and that is the Minnesota Vikings, and what they're planning on doing with this draft. They're probably going to go quarterback. That's what we're going to discuss when we come back from our final break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings and their draft plans, their quest for a quarterback, as I have it labeled here on the bottom. So, article I was reading regarding what a former Vikings GM had to say about the team, saying that the team will have to overpay to trade up for a top quarterback prospect. So, a CBS Sports analyst, NFL analyst, Rick Spielman, thinks the Vikings would have to part ways with their 2025 first-round pick in order to move all the way up from 11 to number 4 to get the quarterback they want. In this case, quarterback could be J.JMcCarthy. And this is what he had to say. I heard a lot of things that Minnesota thought he had an excellent pro day up there and fits exactly what KevinO'Connell wants to do from an offensive standpoint. But, and he said this on with the First Pick podcast, but they're not just going to get it with the 2 first-round picks. They're going to have to throw in their first-round pick in 2025 plus some more draft capital to do what they have to do to go up and get it. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. But yeah, I mean, going from pick 11 to 4, yeah, you're going to have to give up some draft capital to do that. And the Vikings are a team, and I did mention them before, when talking about the Cowboys and their situation with Dak. You look at their roster, what do they really need at this very moment? It's a quarterback. Because right now I think they have the roster where they can compete. They're another team that has that roster. You look at the offensive weapons that they have, and the defense played better last season under Brian Flores. Now, they did lose to Neil Hunter. They did bring in Jonathan Grenard, Anthony Van Ginkel. They still got some good players on that. They brought in a couple of good players on that defense, and they still have good players on that defense. So, I mean, well, when you think of the Vikings, you think more of their offense and the weapons they have there. They need a quarterback. And right now, they bring in Sam Darnold, which I think Sam Darnold could be fine as like the stopgap, but you need to have a long-term plan there. And losing Kirk Cousins, that was unfortunate, but again, they weren't looking to give him $100 million guaranteed for the 2024 season. So now they're looking at the draft, and they already made, a trade with the Texans to move up. And if their guy is there, they could look to move up even more. And just like what Spielman says, they they seem to really like J.J. McCarthy. And J.J. McCarthy, like I've been saying, his stock has been rising. And you got teams like the Giants that could be interested. Supposedly, now Jane Daniels is set to meet with the Commanders. I think he already did. I saw an article that said like Monday and Tuesday. Well, today's Wednesday, so I don't know if that was for this week or next week. Regardless, meeting with the Commanders twice. Commanders could be the team that takes him with their pick, and then we'll see what the Patriots do at theirs. But supposedly the Giants have some interest in J.J. McCarthy. Maybe there's another team that could trade up. But the Vikings, they want to, I think, get one of these top guys. And, yeah, they might have to give up a hefty sum to get him. Because you got two studs at wide receiver. You got arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, and that's Justin Jefferson. Then you got Jordan Addison, who's coming off of a good rookie season. You got T.J. Hawkinson, who hopefully bounces back from his knee injury that he suffered towards the end of the year. Aaron Jones, bringing him in on a one-year deal. They got weapons on this team. And they need a quarterback. So, that rookie quarterback, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. And if they want that guy, yeah, like I said, you're going to have to might have to give up a lot to get him. I don't know if it's going to be like what Spielman's saying, but maybe it is. And if it's J.J. McCarthy. Now, whether you like J.J. McCarthy or not, he would be stepping into a good situation. Because I know I mentioned how I did see comments that he's Zach Wilson 2.0, and how Zach Wilson had a great pro day, and look at what ended up happening. Well, here's the thing. Zach Wilson didn't get drafted into a good situation. J.J. McCarthy would be getting drafted into a good situation. Because you got the best wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, and the other weapons that I just mentioned. And KevinO'Connell, I think, is a good offensive-minded head coach. So, and he might not have to start right away. Zach Wilson started on day one. Now, Zach Wilson, I think, his rookie season, like you go back to the Titans game, and he made a couple of throws where you're like, wow, this guy could be the future. But then it just, after his rookie season, it just was downhill from there. And again, I don't want to make this a Zach Wilson segment, but that's what some people on social media are comparing him to, is Zach Wilson. And it seemed like J.J. McCarthy at times didn't have to do much because he was on a loaded team in Michigan, and like I said, they ran the ball for almost 300 yards, or around 300 yards, in the national championship game. So, but I think he is, whether you like him or not, he is stepping into a good situation with the Vikings if that's what they end up doing. And I just pulled up his college stats. Now, again, stats don't tell the whole story, but in 2021, 5 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, then basically had the same touchdown-interception ratio the next 2 seasons, 22-5, and then 22 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Didn't pass for 2022, 2,719 passing yards, and then 2,991 passing yards in 2023. But actually, yeah, I mean, you look at some of the games. Well, you look at the national championship game. 10 of 18, 140 yards. Wasn't asked to do too much. Then, against Alabama, the game before that, 17 to 27, 221 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And I'm looking at some of the other games as well from this past season. And, yeah, a lot of those games, or at least some of the games I was looking at, didn't even pass for over 200 yards. So, yeah, I'm seeing like against Iowa, only had 147 yards, 148 against Iowa State. Oh, Ohio State, sorry. Iowa, Ohio. Against Maryland, had 141 yards passing. Again, it doesn't tell the full story, but again, just saying. Doesn't throw for, at least the games that I'm looking at right here in front of me, didn't throw for a ton of yards. But again, that's just a couple games there. So, and in this offense, if you get drafted to the Vikings, yeah, you're going to be asked to throw the ball because of the playmakers that you have. You want to have a running game that you can rely upon too. And I think bringing in a veteran like Aaron Jones, it was a smart move. Again, just on a 1-year deal. But again, I mean, J.JMcCarthy isn't even a Viking yet, but it seems like they want him. That could be their guy. But another team could step in and say, no, he's going to be our guy instead. At least for the moment, though, you look at the first 2 picks, it seems like it's going to be obviously Caleb Williams and then Jaden Daniels. It seems like at this current moment could be the number 2 overall pick. So then that leaves you with Drake May, J.J.McCarthy. They're probably the next 2 that will be taken off the board right now, the way things are looking. And then you also got Michael Penix. You also got Bo Nix from Oregon, who I really have not mentioned on the show. They'll probably be taken a little bit later. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting. You're going to see, you will see teams moving up and moving down in the draft. That's a guarantee. But for the Vikings, going to have to give up some more capital to go and maybe get your guy. And again, it's just unfortunate for them that they had to lose Kirk Cousins because the division has gotten better. The Lions aren't going anywhere. The Packers are going to be really good, I think. The Bears, Caleb Williams is going to be stepping into a good situation there. Right now, let's see what the Vikings do. And I think, again, whoever they draft might sit behind Sam Darnold. They're going to have an opportunity to maybe beat him out in camp and in preseason to get the starting job, but maybe they don't get it right away and Sam Darnold starts. But if they had Kirk Cousins, I'd really like the Vikings going into this year. But right now, because quarterback position, yeah, right now I look at them as with the Bears, 3rd or 4th place. But that's just a credit to how loaded the division is. Because what the Bears did in the offseason, I like what they did. The Packers exceeded expectations in 2023, and they're going to be even better. Jordan Love can carry over what he did his first full year as a starter. If we're going to get that Jordan Love towards the end of the season for a full season in 2023, oh yeah, the Packers are going to be really good. And I believe they are going to be really good. And then you still got the Lions. Both North divisions, the AFC North and the NFC North, are very competitive. Now, again, the AFC North is the best division in football, in my opinion. But don't sleep on the NFC North because that division is going to be really good as well. But now we got to see what the Vikings and the Bears do. Bears are going to take Caleb Williams. Vikings are going to be taking a quarterback. At least with the Lions and the Packers, we already know you got Jared Goff. Packers got your Jordan Love. So, yeah, excited about this division. This division is going to be a lot of fun. So, but yeah, that's basically it though. When discussing this particular topic, let me know what you guys think. What the Vikings will end up doing? Do you think that they are? I mean, again, if their guy ends up getting taken, then maybe they do something else with the pick. But it seems like the Vikings might not be done yet. They might be looking to try to move up even more and try to lock down one of these top guys. So, well, it's either going to be Drake May or J.J.McCarthy. But we'll see. Because, again, you got the Patriots, the Cardinals. I mean, yeah, the Cardinals might be... Well, the Cardinals is the team that has the 4th pick in the draft that they want to move up to the 4th pick. So, I mean, that's... we'll keep an eye on that. But the Cardinals, they might want to stay where they are and get, one of the top receivers. But apparently I was listening to the radio, and apparently I think Adam Schefter might have said this, but now it seems like Malik Neighbors might be the first wide receiver taken instead of Marvin Harrison Jr. See, that's why I don't really want to do a mock draft, because it's just, I mean, I might, but it's just so many so many experts are conflicting them or contradicting themselves, and it's just now again what I just said. Now apparently Malik Neighbors might be the first wide receiver taken instead of Marvin Harrison Jr. Or conflicting things, and I said contradicting, but conflicting. You hear one expert saying this, another one saying that. It's just I don't know. But again, it is what it is. It's all predictions. Things are gonna. No one is going to create the perfect mock draft. It's not gonna happen. But I just thought that was interesting if that actually is true. But we will see. The draft is it'll be here before we know it. It is towards the end of this month, and all of our questions will be answered once we get there. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, make sure to tune in to our other shows here on the GSMC Sports Network. Greatly appreciate that. The postseason, like I said, will be starting for the NBA and the NHL. We got baseball in full swing. College basketball is over. So, and also tune into the UFL as well, even though, like I said yesterday, I haven't really been paying attention to it. But I did do a UFL topic, so make sure to check that out on both YouTube channels or wherever you get your podcasts as well. But, yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. That is all the time that we have for today. Again, we'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet.